Donald Trump was delighted by King Charles's visit to Washington this week, but not all New Yorkers were quite so pleased. In advance of a 9/11 memorial to be attended by King Charles, Mayor Zohran Mamdani said this.
If you have a moment to chat with King Charles today down at the World Trade Center Memorial, how do you view your role as mayor? Do you see it as being sort of a polite, diplomatic moment? You just say hello and welcome, or is there anything else you would say to him? Do you have a specific message you might want to deliver?
I'll be saying that today I'll be attending a wreath laying alongside a number of other elected officials, including Governor Hochul, Governor Sherrill. And the focus of that wreath laying is to honor the more than 3,000 New Yorkers who were killed in the horrific terror attacks of September 11th. And that's what I'm really looking to do at that event.
So you haven't thought about anything you might say if you say hello to him and he stops to chat?
You know, if I was to speak to the king separately from that, I would probably encourage him to return the Kohinoor diamond.
The Kohinoor diamond is one of the largest cut diamonds in the world. It's about the size of a chicken egg. And it's the subject of enormous geopolitical dispute. Historians believe it was first mined in southern India thousands of years ago. But since then, it has been seized by Mughal emperors, Persian shahs, and Afghan warlords. It's currently, though, possessed by the Brits, who demanded it under duress from a young Sikh king in 1849. The famous diamond now sits in the Tower of London as part of the royal family's crown jewels. The stone is set in the crown of the Queen Mother, who wore it at her coronation as Queen Consort in 1937. The governments of India, Pakistan, Iran, and Afghanistan all claim legitimate ownership of the diamond. And the Indian government has publicly declared an ambition to get it back. King Charles has offered no comment. It's one of those ones where you read it. Lots of people claim that it's originally theirs. Is it the Afghans, the Iranians, or the Indians? I mean, it's probably one of them, right? I think the fact it ended up in Britain, you can see it's disputed what countries in those regions have the right to the diamond. It's probably not the ones that came in and colonized the country and then under duress sort of demanded it from a Sikh king. So we probably should give it back. Someone who has Mamdani's back, and this is interesting because, you might watch that thinking, no, he's just a lefty. Of course he's going to say that. But New York politics seems to be different because surprisingly, Mamdani's former Republican opponent in last year's race to become New York mayor seems to agree. This is Curtis Sliwa.
What should he have said to the king yesterday?
Oh, total agreement to him. Because I was in India. This was about 15 years ago, and I met with historians there. They stole all the artifacts, not just in India, all over the world. They refused to give it back. So they have the king and the queen, the royalty. They're a bunch of deadbeats, slackers, the worst welfare cheats in the world. So the countries ask, could we have our artifacts back? And they say no. Meantime, India, they had 2 million volunteers join the king's army in World War II to defend the crown. 100,000 casualties, many more injured. I think the least that the royal family, the royal stiffs could do is not stiff the Indian people. But they do it, and they don't think twice about it. And they should have met with the Epstein victims. Oh, we don't
Well, here, yeah. Yeah, it's a tough time for the British royals right now.
Well, you would have never known that, the way they were treated.
Yeah.
It's our anniversary of our revolution.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be bowing down in front of the Union Jack. That should be celebrated. Nathan Hale, I have only one life to give for my country. They hung him. And now standing ovation. Oh, and then what about all the liberals and progressives? No kings, no kings. Oh, the king, the queen. They're fake, phony, fraudulent fugazes. I hate the king, I hate the queen. They should do away with the royalty. And remember, that's who we broke away from in order to have this great country of us. We spend more time celebrating the king and the queen than we do our 250th anniversary. Shame on us. Shame on us.
Michael, could you explain to me who Curtis Sliwa is? I don't really understand how that was a Republican candidate because he seems really fucking cool.
Yeah, he's actually kind of amazing. He was the Republican candidate for mayor. He was beat out by Cuomo and Mamdani, who ultimately won. But he's sort of, my dad's family is from New York City, and he's sort of like the Italian uncle that every Italian person in New York has, who just sort of comes in with a huge personality, tells it like it is, is a little bit over the top, and he never really had a real shot at the mayoral candidacy. But what was very interesting about him in the race is that Cuomo tried to get him to step down And Sliwa was basically like, screw you, man. I'm not stepping down. And him staying in the race helped pave the way for Mamdani's victory.
And what do you think about this King Charles visit? Because everyone's talking about how well it went down. Sort of people laughed at his jokes. He got 12 standing ovations in Congress. Curtis Sliwa making, the quite interesting point, which is that, the Americans are supposed to be Republicans, not Republicans in the sort of capital R sense, in the sort of against kings sense. But they all seem to be universally swooning over King Charles. Or is that, are we getting a false impression in the UK and actually his visit's more divisive than we've been led to believe?
I think it's probably more divisive because the audience at the White House is going to lean towards people who probably like him and will just, clap if Trump is clapping. But I do think it's an interesting point Sliwa was making that if we're really are anti-monarchy and no kings, then we probably shouldn't be applauding the fact that the UK still has a king. And I think it's one of the most interesting things about British culture, honestly, coming over here and observing just what's going on for a few months and seeing, the tabloids about the royals and things like that. I'm sort of like, why do people still give the king and the royal family so much attention? I get it; it's kind of a fun part of British culture, and it's interesting to folks and it's entertaining. But I think it's a bit outdated if you really are going to stand by the liberal values of democracy, right? So maybe a bit of a harsh thing to say about British culture, but at the same time, I think that the visit probably wasn't applauded by as many people in the U.S. as the TV may have suggested.
I don't think anyone's going to be too offended if you say that we're a little bit outdated for still having a royal family and still sort of looking up to them and pretending that this is sort of a legitimate source of political power. While we got a Yank in the studio, Mamdani, everyone loves him. Donald Trump loves him. New Yorkers love him. He seems to be popular across. Obviously, you love him.
Yeah,
but it's going remarkably well, it seems.
It's going remarkably well, and I really want it to keep going well because what he's doing is he's bringing a completely new type of politics to the Democrats, which is a party that's been, I think, really glacial in terms of its ability to move forward and evolve and change into a really progressive party that actually represents working people. And he's come in, he's doing so much. It's been a little over 100 days, and he's made so many changes in that city. And every little win he gets, I'm applauding because it's showing that not only can this type of politics win elections, but it can also govern effectively. And I think that's the criticism that the centrists have against the progressives in the U.S. is that, okay, you have all these cool ideas, you know how to get elected, you know how to be populist and say what people want to hear, but then you get in office and you don't do anything because you don't know how to govern. And Mamdani is an incredible counterexample to that argument, and I really am just cheering for his success.
Will AOC be the Democratic candidate in the next presidential election?
Man, I hope so. I don't know. I think that there's some valid conversations about whether the whole U.S. electorate is ready for AOC as president, but I'm certainly ready. I would vote for her. I think she's amazing, but I think that also we need to look at who are the other progressive candidates that may be able to bring an AOC type agenda into the White House. Who may be more electable, but I think she's electable. I think she's fantastic, and I hope that she is
Who would
the
the
nominee.
other candidates be? Are there sort of...
Yeah, there's a few governors. There's Pritzker in Illinois. There's Shapiro. People are talking about Pete Buttigieg, but I think the main candidate that folks are talking about is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, my home state.
Is he good? Do you like him?
I'm not a huge fan. No,
Okay.
I think he seems to be one of those people who will not move the party forward. He seems like more of the same. He's got a lot of corporate backers. He seems to be beholden to the money that has captured the U.S. political system. That said, he's been pretty good on climate as a governor of California. He's pushed the green agenda pretty effectively. I do think that he has some, there's some redeeming qualities about him, but I don't see him as a progressive.
Do you think the Democrats will win the next presidential election?
Probably yes, I think so. The Republicans are collapsing right now. I mean, there's the popular support for this imperialist war in Iran is not to be found. I think the Epstein news has continued to hound them because Donald Trump is so implicated in that story. And I think people who are in the MAGA, quote unquote, base, who really believe that Trump was going to represent them and bring the fight to the elites and the deep state are starting to see, like, wait a second, he is just one of them. He's one of those people he was complaining about on the campaign trail.
Do you think because with the Epstein thing, it seems to me such a story where anyone can see what they want to see.
Yeah.
As in, so if you're sort of a Trump-inclined person, you can see, you'll focus on Epstein, Clinton, Epstein, liberal establishment. And then if you're a Democrat, you can look at it and say, Epstein, Trump,
Yeah.
Epstein, sort of like Steve Bannon.
Right.
Anyone can just sort of look at him and associate him with their political enemies.
Well, they're all correct. That's the problem, is that the political class in the United States spans the Republicans and Democrats, right? So yes, the Clintons are implicated, 100%. Yes, the Bushes and the Trumps are too. The ruling class, we call them the Epstein class now, that dominate American politics, aren't red or blue, they're both. And so that's why we need a completely fresh set of leaders. And I think there's an argument to be made as to whether those two parties are really the vehicles to move new leadership forward in the states. But if they are, we need a new class of people who aren't part of that establishment. And that's why I do think people like Mamdani and AOC are, a breath of fresh air for U.S. politics.